Welcome to the Date Forever podcast. Keep your relationship fueled up with strategies discovered by couples and experts. Because at Fuel Collective, we believe better relationships will equal a better world. You are about to discover specific insights and tools that cost little or nothing to implement to help you date forever. And now, here are your hosts, a couple who always have a half-packed suitcase and a date night in the calendar, Sammy and Nathan Yeager.
Hello and welcome to Date Forever. In this week's episode, we'll be chatting about navigating the challenges of the first few years together, the importance of continual personal development for your relationship, and prioritising time as a couple even in our busy lives. But before we get into it, Sammy, what's been fueling you up this week?
So we had a really good date night on Saturday night.
Oh, that was going to be mine.
I'm going to claim it because I organised it.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah. It was super fun. I had fun.
I had fun too.
So I had organised us to go for dinner and then a paint and sip class.
This was all a surprise to me.
Yeah, all a surprise for you. And we had delicious Thai food and BYO wine, which was provided by some of our really good friends who have a couple of wine labels, so Corrit and Burge and Barossa Boy. And it's super fun. It was really nice to be out and eating dinner, and it's like one of the very first places that we had been for dinner when we first moved to Sydney.
So it's a little bit nostalgic.
Yeah, a little bit. And it felt like, oh, wow, we've achieved so much since we last ate at this restaurant. And why do we not eat here more often? Because damn, it was good.
It was delicious and it was cheap. It was good.
Yeah. How do you know how much it was? I paid.
I saw the menu.
And then we went and did a paint and sip class, which a couple of my girlfriends had actually gifted me a gift voucher to do this for my birthday last year, back in 2020 March, just when the world changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we hadn't had the chance to use it because they'd been running like indoor, like online classes, and I really wanted to do it in person. So I finally got us booked in with a cool picture. Yeah, and we drank some wine.
Lots of wine.
We painted a canvas. Nathan, our artist, did me.
We should post a pic up on Date Forever and show our artistry, and you can pick whose is whose. Yeah.
So it was just fun. It was out of the ordinary for us. It was something creative. It was something we'd never done before. And I think it was just a really nice opportunity to just have a bit of a laugh at ourselves and each other.
And I honestly can't remember the last time I would have ever painted something or even drawn a picture or done anything really artistic like that. So it was kind of nice to tap back into some of my...
You were really good at it.
I was surprisingly good at it, even if I do say so myself.
All right. And what about you? What was your fuel up?
Well, mine was going to be that I had an amazing time on our date. But probably my other thing that was pretty cool was playing footy this last week. I kicked my first goal in AFL.
Yes, you did. Woohoo!
So we didn't quite get the outcome we want. We ended up drawing the game, but that's okay. I still managed to kick my first goal, which was pretty exciting. And only 3 games in, so...
Nice little boost to your AFL career.
Yeah, feeling like my game's all coming together, and and it was nice to get around the boys and celebrate as well. So that was great.
Hey, so before we get into this episode, Nathan and I would love to ask you a couple of things. One is that if you haven't yet left us a review, it means the world to us, not just to hear what you think, but it also helps us reach new listeners. And that's the intent here, is we want to help as many people as possible to have incredible, thriving relationships. So like, review, subscribe, all the things. We appreciate it more than you know.
And if you haven't yet joined Thriving Couples Collective, make sure you jump on over to Facebook and join that group too, because there you'll be surrounded by not only the two of us, but also a whole heap of other like-minded couples that are all trying to refuel and recharge their relationships.
All right, should we do it?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Today we've got Rebecca and Ed Plant joining us. Rebecca is General Manager and Vibe Creator at the Business League, a national networking collaboration community for small to medium enterprise owners. She co-founded this with her hunky husband, retired Army Major Edward Plant. Beck's also the mother of 3 boys, 2 of the human variety and 1 of the 4-legged kind. She's an internationally recognised author and a dual state representative of netball. When Beck's not in business, she can be found swimming on the Gold Coast oceans, running around the netball court, on her yoga mat, or stealing kisses from her 2 young men. Edward Plant is the lead educator at Business League. He is also a retired Army Major with 17 years of service. His career in the Australian Armed Forces, leading troops in combat and non-combat operations around the world, laid a firm foundation for Ed's leadership, strategy and coaching credentials. He calls crap on the notion that leaders are born. Ed is also a much-loved husband to his sexy wife, father of 2 boys, an internationally acclaimed author, our centurion axe thrower, and lives in a bona fide treehouse in the Gold Coast hinterland. Welcome to the show, you two.
Thank you very much. Can you tell that I wrote those bios? Throwing the sexy wife.
Yeah, well, it's not true.
It's totally right.
Hey, so the 2 of you, business partners and husband and wife, which one came first?
Business owner, technically before husband and wife, but
and
not
how
before
long?
dating.
Not before dating. So you were dating, then a business, then a marriage.
Yes. Dating, business, yes. Children after that, yes.
So is this the business that you're currently working on together? Is that your first business together?
3rd or 4th?
Yeah. It's not officially. This one's kind of the one that we're working together now. We've had in the background going on and off as a part-time hobby for
since 2012.
8.5 years now. And we've always had it going through that time. But before that, we did lots of leadership work together and communication coaching for small businesses. So we've always worked with the same people for the whole time, but it's just been in different forms.
Different iteration. So tell us a little bit about the Business League. What do you do there?
We basically bring people together to help them get connections to grow their business. So the power of networking, and the key difference we do is that we actually train people to network better so that they can create the right relationships to get better results for their business.
Awesome. So then on the other side, your marriage. How long have you been married?
We recently celebrated in March 9 years married.
Amazing.
Oh, very nice.
And we mentioned the 2 kiddos in the bio. How old are they?
Samuel is 8 and Charles is 5.
Oh, wow.
So what's your relationship story? Like, how did the 2 of you meet?
How long have you got?
We've known each other through family and friends for a long time.
So I joined the army with Beck's sister in 1994.
Is it 1994? Lots of people listening might not have
Just to put an age on where I'm at.
People listening might not have
We were both born.
Oh, you were? That's good.
We
may not have even been born in 1994. Yes, so Ed was in the military with my sister, and then later my sister got together with my brother-in-law, her husband, and Ed was very good friends with my brother-in-law. So we just knew each other through circles, and Ed became the godfather to one of my nieces. And while all this was happening, we were going about our lives. You know, we both had separate lives. I got engaged to be married and moved overseas, and Ed got married. And, you know, we always had a bond. We knew each other. But after those things fell apart, we both found ourselves in Canberra. And I was living with my sister at the time, and I needed to move out because they had 2 kids as well, smaller than our kids. But I'd found myself in Canberra and I needed a roommate. So I rang Edward.
Beck says needed a roommate. She means needed somebody to help pay rent. That's the real
Very
motivator,
true.
I think.
Yeah.
Didn't actually want to live with someone.
I was looking at things by myself, and I was like, wow, this is so expensive. This is not going to work for me. So let me find someone who gets a subsidy from the government to rent in the military way. So I rang him and said, would you like to move in together? And he originally said no. And I went, oh, okay, well, that's a bit of a
Just
bummer.
in context, I was going through separation from my wife. It was full on and just dealing with all of that. And I was like, oh, I need to be really clear if I'm willing to move in with someone when I need my space and I need to be able to control that and look after myself.
Read between the lines. I didn't know if I could live with a sexy hot chick and not.
my
and
best
not have
mates.
blurred lines.
Yeah.
That's between the lines.
The optics would have been interesting.
So, in the end, you rang me back.
I called back.
You called back in 5 minutes and said, actually, no, that would be great. This would be fun. And so we went house hunting and found this really cool old shack in Canberra, and it had the carpet on the floor that kind of looks like the old pokies rooms. It had wood panelling halfway around, in the living areas. It had plastic chandeliers. Like, it was the perfect pad that you want when you're, in your 20s, just fun, kind of didn't matter.
It was big, on a big block.
The owners were like an old Italian couple who wanted us to pay cash into the letterbox and were happy to do our gardens for us, so we didn't have to do anything. So it's the perfect situation, and it was big, so it was plenty of room for us both to work through whatever we were going through.
The two heartbroken, now bachelor and bachelorette, who are just moving through a few things.
Things, that's right. So we...
Sometimes moving, sometimes stuck, but yes.
Yeah, sometimes
definitely
staying.
going through a few things.
Yeah, so we spent lots of those early days, weeks, just talking, just communicating and learning about what had happened for us both and going through that experience of what was life like and what's brought us to this point. And over those times, we got to know each other, and I realised driving to my sister's house one day, had a big bolt of lightning, that I love Ed, and that was kind of from there. I had to do all that I could to get him to see me, like, properly, and that's how we got together.
And while that had been going on, I think I really compartmentalised what was going on in my life, and I had a real... You may be able to tell I'm an engineer in the army, who I was, and I've got that very analytical, process-driven place, but it was all... I always compartmentalised my relationship with Beck in that she's a friend of one of my best mates' wives, who's a friend, and there's a boundary there, and just not to step over it. So it was really a friendship that I was in with Beck and forming, and I sort of had my blinkers on to anything else for a while.
So how I got him to see me was getting really drunk, of course.
I was going to ask how you worked through that, Ed, but maybe it was just as simple as getting drunk.
Jaeger bombs and a night out in the town. And then he kissed me in the kitchen at home after many pots of tea. He finally got the message that I was waiting for him to kiss me.
It was like needed old school mail to come and send me a letter for me to read, kiss Beck now sort of thing. Big signs flashing, hurry up and do it.
Finally got him over the line.
She's sending off signals left, right and centre, and they were going straight up and over.
Yeah.
So how was that sort of next stage of transitioning from housemates to a romantic relationship?
Quick, complicated, but fun.
Yeah. It was really tough because in some stages, so personally, I'd never experienced this kind of... I'd been engaged to be married before, and I didn't end up getting married, thankfully. And I think when I met Ed and he started to show himself to me, I had never really experienced the depth of what was available as a human and of love, and I really fought against that. I really had thought Canberra would be my place where I would buy my SUV, which I did, meant I could just pack up my life at any stage and take off wherever I wanted. And that was kind of what my thoughts and ideas were around what my life was going to look like for that next couple of years. And then there was this...
From the lady that didn't have a mobile phone plan because she didn't want to be locked into anything. That was the level of commitment.
Seeing the picture.
It was tough, but Ed just was there. I'm like, I'm going to take off to Bateman's Bay. He goes, okay, cool, and gets in the car and just comes along. It's a 3-hour drive, and I'm like, oh God, I don't know if I want you to come for that 3 hours. This
wasn't the plan.
It wasn't the plan, and he was just always there. Like, I tried to push him away and to not open myself up to it, but Ed's ability to stay and completely sit in the fire of explosion and resistance was so honourable and admirable and respectful that I couldn't help but fall in love with him.
It's a potent cocktail, isn't it? You're both going through a level of heartbreak and healing while also navigating living with a housemate and then falling in love on top of it.
And there was lots of those times where I was having to work through my fairy tales too. It's, what was that movie that I watched when you got home from work and I'd been at home watching a movie one day. I don't know. But he had actively courted her, you know. There was lots of arriving and sending flowers and doing all these things. And because we'd already lived together, the guy had seen me without makeup on and my hair a mess and hungover and after runs and all the things that you don't normally show someone straight away. I felt like my fairy tale part of me was really going, I'm missing out, you know. So there was also that element that poor Ed had to ride the wave on too, as I broke down all of those ideas and ideals of what a relationship, the beginning of a relationship, should look like.
There were other complications in there because we both knew a lot of our friends were the same, and there was that, how soon do we let them know?
That we're no longer just housemates.
And wanting to explore what we wanted before everyone else started coming in and putting their perceptions on it and bringing their agendas or whatever's to it. So
we've got a very similar story where we were friends all through high school and then were housemates before we got together as well. And I think just in that
then we fell in love.
We did. But I think it was just those, like that first year or so living together, you do learn so much. It's really a make or break kind of scenario. You either completely understand and fall head over heels for that person, or it can be a real polarizing kind of time. But I think like you were saying too, with that first dating phase, we didn't really go through that either because we were literally around each other so often. And
we've seen all of the inner workings, bits and pieces, the unglamorous parts that you normally, like you said, Beck, keep a bit hidden in that early dating stage. So I think it definitely expressed an element of our relationship because there was like, oh, well, we already live together. We already have a shared bank account that we pay for groceries from. Like there was a lot of conversations that had already occurred without the romantic feelings attached to it. But we also got drunk and kissed. And that was the beginning of the new chapter.
I think my engineering self needed to get drunk as well. So.
And when you took me out and when we decided we were going to date and Ed did take me out, he left the house before I got home. It was actually a perfect scenario, work situation that we were going through at that time. Ed was doing his next rank course, so it wasn't super long hours. And I was working a full-time job, but also training for the Australian Netball League at that stage with the Canberra team. So it was really great grounding because we still had really different things going on. But when we decided to date, Ed left the house before I got home from work that day to allow me to shower and get ready and do the things. And he preloaded in the fridge a bottle of champagne and some nibbles and stuff. So he preloaded on the fridge, but he left.
I think oysters, but we forgot to put them.
You didn't need them anyway.
Then he came up. At the time of the date, he came to the front door and knocked on the front door with a bunch of flowers and said, let's have a drink, and made it really special.
Gave you some of your fairy tale.
Yeah, made it really special.
I love that. Can I request this, Nathan? I want this experience. I want to be picked up for a date.
Yeah, some of the bits we missed out on early in our dating phase.
So this was 10 years ago now? A bit longer?
2009, so 12 years ago.
So you've been on a journey in your relationship, obviously, to get to that point, but then also since then. So maybe tell us a little bit about your relationship and some of the things that maybe you wish you knew then.
I think throughout that dating and our whole relationship, things have happened really fast for us. Like one of them was we decided that once we got married, we'd start seeing if we could have children and practicing properly. I think our wedding night, we fell pregnant with Samuel.
Not I think it was.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's pretty quick.
Domino.
We go, let's date. We're already flatmates living together, sharing food, cooking. Okay, let's get married and have kids. And that all happened in one day. So we've always had to deal with things that are coming to us really fast. There's not the slow dealing with getting to know you, what emotions coming up here and dealing with that. So I think a couple of things that I would have liked to have known that I know now is how to slow things down.
That could have been way worse. Slowing things down is good.
Creating the space to breathe.
Yeah, and just making the special moments more special, probably.
Well, and making the everyday moments, finding moments to have little special connections inside of there, that's been the biggest thing that we have really worked on, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, with the boys and the business really all taking a lot from us. And it's those moments where I think it took us 5 days to sit down for a cup of tea last week together. But it was that commitment to sitting down for the cup of tea that kept us, okay, well, can we do it now? No, right, okay. So we finally sat down and had that cup of tea, and that's for us was enough, because we were working toward just sitting down for that cup of tea. And there's always been a shared vision as to what are those little things that we can do to stay connected. But one of the things that we were really fortunate to undertake and manifested for the beginning of our relationship is we spent the first 2 years of our relationship in a success coaching course and a personal development course. So every 3 months, every three or 4 months, we were in for 3 days at a time unpacking unpacking all of our stuff, and then giving ourselves common language with which to communicate all the things that we were going through. That wasn't, we never set out and got together and said this is forever, but we both had this experience. It was really something that we were driven to explore individually, and then decided, well, that'll be really cool to do together as well. And that has given us the grounding to be able to run like we do now, because we have the languaging to call each other out. We've got the awareness and the emotional intelligence to step up and out and observe things when we need to. And then just that desire to always be coming back to looking at our goals and priorities and focus. And those 3 things have been key to helping us continue to run what we call run, which we do a lot of. Our life feels like it's running.
Yeah, I think it's sprinting for most people, but for us it's just
a jog.
Brisk walk to run at stages.
Yeah. So what would you say the impact of that personal development has been on your relationship long term? I ask you that because I look at our relationship and I feel the same way. I feel that if Nath and I had not invested in our own personal development, one of us would have outgrown the other one. One of us would have hurt the other person without knowing that that's what we were doing. And I think the investments that we've made in personal development have been time, money, energy. Sometimes it's felt like not the most financially responsible thing to do. And sometimes it's been one of us investing in a skill that's directly related to our career or a passion project or something, but it's created continuous growth. And then I found that as I've grown or as Nath's grown, then we create this whole new space of overlap where there's new and exciting things as well as this shared language. And I really just don't think our relationship would look anything like what it looks like without those investments.
Yeah, I actually read a post by someone the other day that talked about the money they'd spent on courses and upskilling in personal development over the years. And I actually thought, I must sit down and attempt to table what that number would be, because you're right, Sammy. For me, there was so much leftover childhood stuff that needed to be worked through that still comes up now, but because we're so practiced at identifying it and putting story around it and feeling it and then moving it through, that it becomes easy to not hurt each other, or it's a calling out on, I'm wounded right now. Like even last night, something happened and I just said to Ed, I'm really sorry, I'm just feeling wounded right now. I need to just take a break, take a moment. And it's those, sometimes feels like really dramatic, like I'm feeling wounded, and it can feel that way, that you're being really dramatic. But on other times, like we were being really adult in that conversation, saying, yeah, I'm feeling hurt right now. And the ability to do that is adulting, and it's really the cornerstone of any great relationship, whether it be with your lover, whether it be with someone who works for you or with you, or whether it be a friend or a parent. It's that necessary skill to be able to talk to each other and communicate openly about what is going on and where it's stemming from.
I love that you said that, because I think that's one of the gifts that personal development delivers, is that this deeper knowing and awareness and understanding of yourself and why you feel the way that you do, or how you can feel that you do. But I found that for Nathan and I, one of the byproducts of that is that when we do experience conflict, we can get to the true heart of what that conflict's actually about quite quickly. And if we can identify not just the symptom, but the actual problem, because one of us is so deeply in tune with this is why this is showing up for me like that, I found that repair is a lot quicker. And then we're able to, I guess, move on from it a lot quicker too.
And for me, it was critical. I was like 17 years in the army. You're trained to make decisions, act, segue emotions, and just remove them, because getting shot at, you just don't have that time to be dealing with whatever's coming up. The problem with the army is they don't teach you to go back and deal with those. So they're always just pushed to the side and never dealt with. And it's that I think males are probably quite good at burying their head in the sand, ignoring, moving on, just get into the next thing and keep pushing. And if I'd continued to do that, we wouldn't have had open conversations. We wouldn't have moved through things. I wouldn't have continued to grow.
Well, you wouldn't have been the right person for me, because I'm all about that. Yeah. Very deep, Sammy and Nathan, very deep.
Yeah.
And I think the thing with personal development is that, like, yes, it is personal, but there's also something really nice about doing some of these things together, because you do get that shared language and you are able to actually kind of work through certain things at the same time when they do come up. Whereas if you're just on your own journey, you kind of can still bottle it away and keep that from your partner. Whereas I think, like the two of you did, actually going through a personal development course together, you can have all those conversations and bring everything up and really be aligned and have that shared language.
Hey, so do you still have that practice? Do you still have a rhythm around investing in those things each year?
No, we don't.
I think every day.
Yeah. We definitely do it every day.
Yeah.
Do we invest in it
Do
every
we
day?
go to other people for it now? Not so much.
Yeah.
We probably do it individually. Like I'll go on a man's retreat, or Beck will go on a yoga retreat, or
I have a women's group that I attend as well.
I have a men's group, and then one of us will take 2 days off and we'll just go and have time on our own to do whatever we need to do to see what comes up and just have some space. So we do, but we don't. I don't think there's a personal development course that we drop into or seek, but we seek what we need, and we're continually looking at it.
Yeah, and even just simple things like personal development takes a different route, doesn't it? So it's now just even looking at developing my physical body, or looking after my physical body with a chiropractic visit, or maybe some healing. And they're the kind of different elements of personal development that we experience right now. There's lots of things I'd love to do in the future when there's more space and our kids are maybe a bit older that I can explore. But right now, we also spend a lot of our time, and we invest a lot in learning different tactics and strategies for our business too. And I think that there is no greater personal development experience than running a business that has a national community of 70 people more, and requires you to be day-to-day adulting, having conversations, and then having team around us as well. Like there's a leadership journey inside of there, so that we're not playing out our crap onto the team as well. So that to me feels like a huge investment in personal development.
Massively. Yeah. So you mentioned like taking retreats separately and those kind of things, but do you have any other practices or rituals that you have to try and keep your relationship fueled up?
I like to, because our life is so structured, I enjoy not structuring our personal life a lot. Yeah. The one thing that we do our best to conform to is Sunday night looking ahead, what's in our diaries, so that we can really get on net with, who's taking the kids to soccer practice, who's dropping at the bus, who's picking them up, what have you got on, when's axe throwing, what are the logistical elements, which funnily enough actually helps us be more connected, because we don't have to then have practical conversations. I hate practical conversations. They overwhelm me. I'm not the person who organises stuff. Like if we're selling things on Marketplace, Ed does it, because I just can't, the backwards and forwardsing with people, it's just too much for me. Like all the organising and all the things are just, it's not my bandwagon. And so.
But I, on the other hand, could do it all day.
You love it.
Yeah.
So Ed can also have practical conversations every day, whereas it's really tiring for me and it overwhelms me to think about that. So in understanding each other's strengths, that's great too, because it allows us to then create our rituals. So there's that practical ritual, which actually helps us stay connected, because it gives me that time to have fluidity throughout what we do, which is that feminine aspect. When I live in a house of all males, it's really important for me to have that, and Ed respects and honours that space too. But we don't have a particular ritual. But as I said, the tea for us, it's just if we're home in a weekend, put the kettle on, go outside, let the kids run crazy, and for us just to sit in the sunshine and just drink a cup of tea.
Or during the week.
So
I think there's a few. There's the cups of tea. There's obviously date nights, and we try and get those in whenever we can. We got one in last night, spur of the moment.
Amazing.
Definitely. And then other things like going for walks together or movement. When we're moving together, we communicate a lot more. So I remember flying down to see one of our coaches one day, and we flew into Sydney in the morning, flew back in the afternoon, spent the day with them, and the time in the plane next to each other talking was some of the highlights and keeping us connected, and the jumping in a car, doing road trips. Sometimes Beck takes me on a road trip just to get me in the car to talk, and we don't actually go anywhere.
But you get it, you're filling up the cup that you need.
Yeah, so there's those sort of, I think for us, our relationship's best when we're both connected, when we both feel like we know what's going on for each other, and we know when we're slipping on that, and we bring that back to the front when it's needed.
Which is a great question. How do you know when I'm slipping? Like, what are some of those things? Like, for people who are in the first elements of their relationship, what do they?
You're annoying me. I don't want
for?
to be around you.
That's right.
You're annoying and I don't want to be around you. Warning, there's a siren going off.
Maybe
Alert number 1.
I'm not really connecting in with Beck.
Maybe I'm yelling and snapping as well at you. That's for me.
In early stage of a relationship, I think it's very different because there's so much excitement and newness.
So much sex and fun and nothing.
Those moments are few and far between, and you get over them again with sex again.
That's right. It's everything. What's the answer to something? Sex. That's the answer for the rest of you.
So our next question was going to be, what's your big tip, advice, recommendation, something for people to watch, read, listen, or do to keep their relationship fueled up? Is it just have more sex?
I think there's a few that come to mind. One of them.
But the first one's have more
sex.
It does help.
It's hard to stay mad during sex, but anyway. One of them was don't go to bed angry. And do that. And the other one was for big fights, don't do them in clothes.
Do them naked. There's no hiding. If you've got to really yell at each other and you're really going for it, you need to do it naked because there's no clothes. Because then you can't hide.
Well, it's making me uncomfortable just thinking about it. Like, I would hate to yell at you while you're nude.
Yeah. The vulnerability that exists.
And have you guys ever watched How I Met Your Mother? With the guy that does the naked man pose.
The naked man,
diffuses a lot of arguments.
Edward's in my phone as Edward Plant, naked man. But I think, so in terms of resources, one of the other really great books that I'm sure you two are aware of is Gary Chapman's 5 Love Languages. That's an incredibly important book for all humans, whether you're in a relationship or not. But knowing how to fill the cup of the other person is incredibly important because Ed and I, surprise, surprise, are complete opposites in how we receive and feel love. And
we naturally give the way we want to receive, which is not Beck's language.
He says we. So. He knows.
I say we is collectively. I think most people do.
Yeah, I think that is true.
Out of curiosity, what are they? What are your preferred?
Mine are acts of service.
Yeah. Mine are physical touch and words of affirmation.
Acts of service and presence. You like all of them, don't you?
I like all of them. My big ones, though, are physical touch and hearing good things and having validation. That's really important for me.
Which is challenging for me because when we're not connected, the last thing I want to do is physical touch and words of affirmation.
And Beck, my assumption would be that with 2 boys approaching preteen, that those 2 things they're probably not great at, the physical touch and words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation, definitely not. I say definitely not as much as I'd love it. Like if they need to look at me with like fireworks coming out of their eyes every day and be, so grateful that I gave my body to birth them. That in my mind is the level of gratitude that they should be expressing on each and every day. But they are really sweet, and they're still really cuddly and really kissy, and I can get my fill from that, which is great. And they are really sweet because in the morning times I'm like, hey handsome, and the littlest one will be like, hey beautiful. And
I love that.
He's really tapped in sweet. Samuel will actually spend time writing a letter. He'll draw a picture, or his way is a little bit different. But
more tactile.
He's, much more tactile.
But they both start the day with cuddles from both of us, kisses from both of us.
Yeah.
And we have that time.
It's something that I think that I've definitely drilled into them. It's not something that they're going to forego. And even since they were little, I'm like, you've got to promise that when you're taller than mummy, you're still coming in and giving me hugs. My bed is always open to you to flop down on and tell me all your problems and all your happiness and all the things. So it's been ingrained, guys. I've seeded this thought in their mind since before
nature and nurture.
And they're really into it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and if they can grow up with that language of even identifying what their love language is and knowing that, I feel like that would have changed my life if I'd known that, had that skill a little earlier in life too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Hey, so thank you so much for joining us today. We've had some cool chats. One of them was mostly around, being the change and taking accountability for your own personal development and growth for the strength of your relationship. But we also want to talk about be the change in context of the world. So to say thank you for joining us today, we've protected 1 square metre of the Daintree rainforest via an organisation called Rainforest Rescue. And we've done this via our partnership with Buy One, Give One. But obviously it's incredibly important that we take care of the resources that we have so that our life on land can continue to thrive. So thank you so much for making that possible.
Thank you. And that's a really important cause for us. We are really supportive of the work that Rainforest 4 does in the Daintree as well, buying back land and giving it back to the local Kukugilanji people. And I apologise to the Indigenous folk listening. I know I've pronounced that incorrectly, but it's a really important guardianship and process of guardianship that's happening in that part of our world. So thank you very much.
And every month we contribute to buying back more rainforest.
So we did pick the right one. That's great.
Nailed it.
So, Rebecca and Ed, if people want to connect with you, how should they do that?
Oh, you can find both of us on Facebook is our platform. I'm Rebecca E. Plant and you're Edward Plant.
Imagine so. Red hair, red beard on that one.
Yeah, I'm also on Instagram at Rebecca E. Plant, and with our business you can connect with the Business League or jump into the Business Connection Hub if you're in business to hang out with us. Search for that on Facebook as well.
Which is a Facebook group.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks heaps for joining us. If you love what we're doing here and want more, subscribe to the Date Forever podcast to make sure you never miss an ep. Come and hang out with us and other awesome couples who are fueling up their relationships in the Thriving Couples Collective Facebook group, or check us out at fuelcollective.com.au. Until next time, keep on dating, because better relationships equal a better world.